What's up, guys? Lucky Locks here. Welcome back to another prediction video. This is going to be for LFA 134, coming to you live on Friday from Texas, the LFA's home state. So LFA's back home for this one. We got a pretty good card. We got Muin Gafurov versus Herbeth Sousa in the main event. Should be a good fight. A couple other good fights in the card as well. And without further ado, let's just jump right into the fight. So the first fight we have to talk about is at middleweight. It is between Shane Sobnosky and Jared McLoughlin. Sobnosky is an experienced guy. You know, he was 5-2-1 as an amateur, 4-2 now as a pro. Won his pro debut on LFA, fought twice on Fury FC, split those appearances 1-1, then lost his next bout on a different promotion. Then went back to Fury, picked up 2 straight wins. Those both came in 2020. Hasn't been in the cage since. Had 2 canceled bouts on Fury FC in the meantime. On Tapology and Sherdog, it says that he had an upcoming bout on June 4th. No results available for that, so I'm not sure if that actually happened or not. It was supposed to be on PCS1, which seems like some kind of an in-house promotion. So coming in on short notice here, so I'm not sure if that fight even happened, or maybe he got a really quick finish. I'm not really sure, probably one of the two. From what I've seen on tape, has some solid wrestling and top control. Looks to do damage from top, so you like to see that. Going to be fighting Jared McLoughlin here, who is a 2-0 amateur and a 6-2 pro. Started his pro career 2-2. One of the losses to Calvin Rayford, the other one to Matt Dixon. So both pretty good fighters there. Was pretty young at that point. He's only 23 years old now. After his second loss, he's rattled off 4 straight wins, all inside the distance. Has a 100% finish rate. 4 submissions, 2 knockouts. Was training at Jackson Wink in the past. I'm not sure if he still spends any time there. I think that he's more full-time at his current gym, I believe. Clinch Martial Arts Academy, something along those lines in Oklahoma. He's a well-rounded fighter, good wrestling, good grappling, also very competent on the feet, and he's just a natural finisher. You know, he gets guys out of there, so I'm going to be going with Jared McLoughlin in this one. I feel like he's just kind of a step above in this one. Doesn't have to do with the short notice. And yeah, I feel like he's very proficient in all aspects of the game. So I'm going with Jared McLoughlin to get the win in the first fight. Next, we're going down to the flyweight division to talk about Alden Coria and Joseph Camacho. Coria is a 5-1 prospect. He's an LFA regular from Texas, so he's got the home game here in this one. He was 5-0 as an amateur, then won 10 straight fights. Was handed his first loss in his last bout versus Warrior Camp MMA product Michael Sear. He went up to 135 for that fight, a move that I didn't really like too much. He was pretty well established on the regional scene at flyweight. Maybe the best flyweight prospect in Texas, who knows? Definitely in the conversation. But I'm definitely glad to see him back at flyweight in this fight. He has an 80% finish rate as a pro, 2-0 on Fury FC, now 3-1 on LFA. And he's going to be fighting against Joseph Camacho here. I think this is Frank Camacho's brother. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. Don't have confirmation, but kind of seems like it. 3-0 as a pro. Kind of sparse activity, though, over his career. He did win his pro debut in 2016, won his next fight a year later. Then 3 years after that, he won his third fight, and now he's on this card, fighting Coria on a 2-year layoff. Camacho is, he's a good finisher. He has a 100% finish rate. All of his wins have come inside the distance. But Alden Coria has just been much more consistent, more active. I think he's making the better improvements to his game. He fought 6 times between August 2019 and now. Looks very promising, and I got to go with Alden Coria in this one, just based on the activity. And when we do see him in there, he's looked really good. He did lose his last fight against a really tough guy at a weight class above where he normally fights at, but coming back to flyweight here, I got to lean towards Alden Coria to get the job done in this fight. All right, this next one is an interesting fight at heavyweight. We have Jakori Savage versus Taylor Escamilla. Jakori Savage is a 4-1 amateur, 1-0 pro, former college football player at LSU, I believe. 6'6", like 86-inch reach, and has a 100% finish rate between his amateur and pro careers. Won his pro debut over C2 Senghor in the first round on LFA. Has good power in his hands, a little bit sloppy, a little bit wild, but he's aggressive and he goes for it. I like it. That can go a long way in lower level heavyweight fights. I didn't like the way his opponent was getting to the underhooks on him in his last fight. Did a decent job of scrambling on the ground. Did have a really nice sweep to get to top position and finish the fight. Definitely a very strong guy. Grappling technique, though, definitely needs a little bit of work, but he's only 1 fight into his pro career, so that's to be expected. But that wrestling definitely worries me a little bit against a wrestler, and Taylor Escamilla, who is 2-0 as an amateur, 1-0 as a pro. His one pro fight came against a 4-5-1 opponent on Alaska FC. He won via round 1 KO. He is a wrestler, wrestled in college at University of Nebraska at Omaha, was scheduled to fight Jimmy Lawson in February of this year on LFA. Pulled out of that fight. That one probably wasn't going to go well for him. But, he does have a deeper martial arts base than Jakori Savage does, being a wrestler by trade, whereas Savage came over to the sport later after his football career. And honestly, this is one of the toughest fights on the card to pick for me. And the thing I keep coming back to is I'm really not sure why Jakori Savage is minus 350 here. Because to be honest, I really didn't like what I saw out of him on the wrestling last time. And Escamilla, although his fight came on Alaska FC, which is a pretty weak promotion, this guy's from Nebraska and he was a collegiate wrestler. I'm just not sure how to justify a minus 350 line on Jakori Savage. I guess I am going to pick him to win, maybe just by using some pure athleticism, using the big size advantage that he has and maybe finding a knockout earlier in this fight. But would I be that surprised to see Escamilla just kind of put on a wrestling clinic? Honestly, not really. So I am going to go with Savage, but, I don't know what would possess you to want to play this guy at minus 350. I'll say that much. Moving on to the light heavyweight division, we have Joel Guzman and Tanner Marlow squaring off in this fight. Guzman has a lot of Muay Thai experience, fought former UFC fighter Rashad Coulter in Muay Thai, also fought current UFC fighter Joseph Holmes in his Muay Thai career, lost to Holmes and defeated Coulter, so that's really good experience. That's nice to see. He is 2-0 in Pro MMA, had one win last year in his debut, picked up another win this year via triangle in the first round. Low level of competition in Pro MMA, 0-0 guy and an 0-1 guy, but has lots of Muay Thai experience, done some boxing as well. You can definitely tell he's got that Muay Thai in his back pocket. He likes to load up on the body kicks. We've seen him have a little bit of trouble in the grappling and get controlled a bit. Was able to win his last fight with the triangle from bottom, however, so nice to see that he's not completely a fish out of water there. Marlow, on the other hand, 3-1 amateur career, 3-0 pro, all pro wins via KO, 100% finish rate, hasn't fought since late 2019. He was scheduled to face Halston Williams on LFA 123 not too long ago, but pulled out of the fight, now has another one booked here. We talked about Guzman's experience and competition level. Marlow definitely hasn't faced, high caliber opponents either, 0-0, 2-10, 0-2. Has more MMA experience, though, producing good finishes, pretty good striker, has some Muay Thai and boxing of his own in his back pocket. I'm not sure if he has competed in the Muay Thai space as much as Guzman, at least not documented on record, but he's pretty decent at range, combos to the head, mixes in the leg kicks, might have a little bit of size here. I think he has some height. We'll have to wait and see how they match up on Thursday at the weigh-ins, but Marlow also has a pretty decent clinch game. I think that this is a pretty close matchup. I'm going to side slightly with the underdog and Tanner Marlow just because, I feel like this is a fight that can go either way, and I'm definitely not going to bet this fight, but if I were betting it, I feel like I would probably want to have the plus money ticket in this one. The lack of activity is a little bit concerning to me, but I do think he can use some clinch control and potentially some takedowns as well, and I believe that he can hold his own on the feet in this one, so in a close match, I'm going to side slightly with the dog here, but, like I said, I'm just not interested in betting this fight. All right, and our next fight is going to find us back in the flyweight division. We have Kevin Fernandez versus Jordan Harris. Fernandez is looking like a pretty good flyweight prospect right now. He's still very young, 3-1 as an amateur, and now 3-0 as a pro. 2 of his 3 pro fights have come on LFA, so I believe he is making the right career moves to, move himself forward and get himself on the UFC radar. He defeated Manuel Medina about a year ago, then picked up an arm triangle win on XMMA about 4 months after that. February of this year, he was back in the LFA cage, winning a decision against Cody Linney. That's a good win. He is a good striker, also with some decent offensive grappling, takedowns, top control. He's going to be coming up against Jordan Harris in this one, who has one amateur bout listed from 2014. It was a loss. I feel like he probably has more than that. Just from stuff on YouTube, you can see there's some other fights on there. I'm not sure where those are listed on the record, but, at this level, sometimes that stuff gets left out. He is 2-0 as a pro, one win coming in 2015, the other one coming in 2019, and both of those opponents had losing records, so not super active. that is a little bit concerning for sure. Does have some Muay Thai experience, doesn't have a super heavy Muay Thai style from what I've seen on tape, but definitely has competed in that space. He's shown some pretty good grappling, actually. I think it will be, a little more difficult to implement against Fernandez, but Harris could have, as they say, that grown man strength advantage, as Fernandez is still very young, still in his early 20s. But I'm going to go with Fernandez to win this one. I think he has some better MMA experience. This will also be his third LFA fight. Has been much more active as well. I don't think I'm going to be laying minus 500 here, but I do like Kevin Fernandez to get the win. I think he's a good prospect. And just like that, we are at the the co-main event of this fight card, which is Milko Tucto and Olivier Murad. It's going to be a featherweight bout. So Tucto is a 5-3 Peruvian fighter. He was an 8-1 amateur, so very good record there. Turned pro and went 4-0 to start his career, all submissions, but then has kind of faltered a little bit, has gone 1-3 over his next 4. So he fought 2 of those fights on Combate, 1-1 on that show. The loss was to a very solid fighter in Eric Gonzalez, and he most recently fought on XKO in 2021, was defeated by another really good fighter in William Starks, who is a regular on LFA. If you watch LFA, you probably know who that is. Good fighter. Olivier Murad is an undefeated fighter from Miami. He is 7-0 as an amateur and now 6-0 as a pro. So 13 straight wins coming in here, and this man has never tasted defeat before. Fought some lower level competition, but then 2 fights ago we defeated a solid opponent on Titan FC, got called for Dana White's Contender Series last year, won his bout over Chinese prospect Bin Ji with a split decision. He can be a little bit wild on the feet, but good aggression and powerful shots. Grappling looks decent enough. He does have 2 submissions on his record. And I think that Murad is just a bit of a step above Tucto in this one. I think this is around the level of fighter that is kind of tough for Tucto to get past. He has good results, but against those guys that are just a little bit of a step up, he tends to come up a little bit short, and I feel like Murad falls into that category as well. So I'm going to go with Olivier Murad here. Minus 400 definitely doesn't get me out of bed on this one, but I am going to pick him to win the fight. So that's going to bring us up to the main event on this card. We have Muin Gafurov and Herbeth Sousa at bantamweight. This should be a really good fight. 2 high-level guys here. You can probably tell by the records. These guys are really good fighters. This is a high-level fight, and I'm really excited to watch how this one plays out. So we have Gafurov, who is a 17-4 pro. He is a Sambo world champion. He has 5 fights over in 1 FC, so you really like to see that. That's very good experience to have under your belt. He was 2-3 with the promotion, all 3 losses coming to very good fighters, including one to John Lineker. So after winning via round 1 KO over Leandro Issa on 1, he was supposed to fight in the UFC on April 20th, on 4/20 in 2019, and it was supposed to be against Movsar Evloev. I believe he had some kind of a contract issue there, so the fight never ended up materializing. So then he fights John Lineker back on 1 and loses a decision in that fight. Then he's booked against Movlid Haibulayev on UAE Warriors. That bout was canceled due to health issues is what it was listed as. So he then picks up another win on UAE Warriors afterwards, then gets the call for Dana White's Contender Series. He fights a 10-5 Canadian prospect in his mid-30s in Chad Anheliger, and looks good for half of round 1, but kind of gasses and loses a decision. Anheliger was coming in on 9 straight wins, so he wasn't some random bum, but still a pretty disappointing performance from Gafurov there. Striking wise, nothing really to write home about. We have seen him get rocked on the feet before. Sometimes throw some spinning stuff. I'm not really sure if that's his game, and it definitely doesn't help the cardio side of things in my opinion. I don't really think that he can win a stand-up fight, but he is a very strong wrestler with that Sambo base. I think he'll have some size in this one as well. We'll have to see at weigh-ins what it looks like. Not incredible top control, though, and if you're going to be a wrestler without really a potent sub-game or big ground and pound, you need to be able to hold guys down for 3 to 4 minutes of a round, and he wasn't able to do that with Chad Anheliger and Dana White's Contender Series. Actually got reversed at one point and was held down by Chad. So he's going to be coming up against Herbeth Sousa here, who is a 15-1 Brazilian prospect, 28 years old. a bit of a grappling specialist. He's fought at flyweight in the past. His one loss was for the interim flyweight title in Jungle Fight, but he did follow that up with 2 more wins, one coming over a Cage Warriors regular in Wesley Maya, and then he wins the Future FC Bantamweight belt. So after that, he goes to CFFC, in my opinion, one of the 2 best regional shows in North America, and he upsets Alexander Keshtov, who was undefeated at the time, and basically just grappled him for every round. After the first 30 seconds, just got him down and essentially dominated him. So he wins the CFFC Bantamweight title fight, but does not win the belt because he weighed in at 139 pounds for that fight. So that was unfortunate. That was his last fight also, which was over 2 years ago now. He was supposed to have a fight about a year ago, but that was canceled. Will be in the cage for the first time in over 2 years for this fight. Striking-wise, he has 2 knockouts, but not a tremendous striker, has some decent power, some decent volume. In the fight just before the last one, he did drop his opponent and then jumped on a guillotine right away. He is a very dangerous and opportunistic fighter. He's an excellent jiu-jitsu player, 10 submissions and 15 wins, and just a big-time finisher in general with an 80% finish rate. 12 out of 15 wins have been finished, and he's never been finished himself. So very good offensive jiu-jitsu game, good top control, smothering top game. I mean, does damage and attack submissions, very strong body triangle as well. So I think Gafurov probably needs 2 full rounds of top control to win this fight. And I think that's going to be very hard to do against Sousa, who is, a bit of a wizard on the ground. And I'm not really a huge fan of Gafurov's stand-up, so I think I'm going to side with Sousa here. And just overall, guys, on this card, I am really not excited about many betting spots here. I'm not sure if I'll even have a bet anywhere on this card. But if I do, it's probably going to be this fight. Obviously, I'll put it up on BetMMA if I do end up betting it. I'm not super interested in this one, but as the week goes on, we'll see how I feel. We'll see what the line does. If I was going to bet on a fight on this card, it would probably be this one, and I like Herbeth Sousa in this fight. So that's going to do it for my LFA 134 predictions, guys. Should be a fun card to watch. Like I said, I'm not super enthusiastic betting-wise about this card, but definitely should be some fun scraps on there, and very entertaining Friday night. So best of luck with any bets that you choose to make. Thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, I will catch you guys on the next video.